Flying foxes give birth in daylight hours while hanging upside down. The baby emerges head first and is caught in the mother's wings. The baby suckles from a teat in her wing pit. She'll give him milk for at least 6 weeks after birth. Baby bats, or pups, can't regulate their body temperatures, so it's very important that he stays as close to mum as possible. If it's too cold, she can wrap her wings tightly around the pup. On the days when it's too hot, she can gently fan him with her wing.
A 16-month-old Rhea and her larger brother Taj have spent their whole lives here on Leopard Rock, nurtured and protected by their mother. But now, for the first time, their happy family is about to be rocked. Their mother has come into estrus. She's ready to mate again. Her alluring aroma has attracted attention. A large male has come into the area to investigate. Adult males only seek out company when they're looking to mate. But encounters are fraught with danger. He could attack any leopard he can't mate with. And over half of leopard cubs are killed by males. So Rhea and Taj's mother has a stark choice to make. She can stay and mate with him here while trying to protect her cubs. Or she can leave to mate elsewhere, drawing the threat away, but leaving Rhea and Taj to fend for themselves. As the big male approaches, the cubs are unaware of their mother's dilemma and the potential danger they're in. They watch as she disappears into the brush with the large male.
Over the course of the summer, the yaks have moved to higher ground to escape the heat. The old male has followed them. Adult snow leopards need to make a kill about every 10 days. He becomes part of the landscape, creeping closer. The yaks smell him, but even with their excellent vision, they don't see him. He sets his sights on a youngster that's wandered away. The herd scatters. The leopard won't let go. Then the calf's mother rushes in, risking her own life to save her offspring. The big cat hangs on, but the mother charges again, trying to shake the predator loose. A wingman shows up to boost the defense. It's a remarkable escape, and the leopard slinks off, frustrated. The entire herd gathers around the traumatized youngster. Yaks are incredibly social animals.
Times are tough, especially for this mother. She has cubs to feed. Her son, Kumal, is 8 months old and no longer suckling milk. He needs fresh meat. Kumal has watched his mother hunt since he was only 5 months old. And one day, he will have to provide for himself. In the meantime, he and his sister, Mitra, can eat like kings. This deer will keep the family content for the next few days. At this age, Kumal and Mitra are totally dependent on their mother for food, while their father relentlessly protects them and his territory against intruders. In a takeover, a new male may kill the cubs to sire his own. For now, the jungle is their playground, and Kumal and Mitra spend their days blissfully unaware of the dangers that lie ahead.
The northern sea otter thrives in Prince William Sound on the warmer south coast. Here, the waters never get cold enough to freeze over. But even in May, there's still a chilly 40 degrees. It's not exactly a warm and cushy nursery for the colony's most recent arrivals. A handful of newborns. These 3-week-old pups are helpless, unable to swim or stay warm on their own. They won't survive without their devoted mothers, who care for the babies single-handedly. Fathers play no part in raising their young. In this protective cove, the retreating tide exposes a small island. The mothers seize the opportunity to turn it into an otter spa. Grooming their pups traps air in their fur, which keeps them buoyant and insulates them from the cold. With their pups cleaned and fluffed, the doting mothers return to the sea. It's time to catch dinner. This is the riskiest part of an otter mother's routine. She has to leave her pup unattended. While she hunts for fish, her pup floats like a cork. At this age, he's vulnerable, unable to swim or dive to escape predators. Bald eagles will add otter pup to their diet if they get the chance. This pup's not up for grabs. She'll care for him round the clock for another 6 months, until her pup is weaned and can fend for himself. And only then can one of nature's hardest working mothers take a break.
At 2 months old, they have yet to learn how dangerous their world is. Hyenas and leopards are notorious cub killers. Less than half of lion cubs get to see their first birthday. And even fewer make it to adulthood. But the greatest risk of all is from other lions. Rosa's on edge. A lioness has appeared alarmingly close to the cubs. It's not one Nathan recognizes. Rosa's not taking any chances. The lioness gets the message, but doesn't move off completely.
The female's keeping her distance. I think she got her lesson from the mother, having a brief fight and lots of growling.
It wasn't a vicious attack by lion standards, suggesting this female is from Rosa's own pride, the MKs.
If she was a female from another pride, I think she would be really aggressive and see her off completely.
Most lionesses would have introduced their cubs to the rest of the pride by now. But Rosa's a cautious mother and hasn't taken that step yet. She may not be ready, but Spotty, her pluckiest cub, is.
I think these cubs are very curious, this other female, who she is, why they're not allowed to go and see her. I'm sure the cubs are very bored of each other and their own mothers, and the chance to play with someone else would be just so tempting. This might be the first introduction to another lion. So this is a bit of a new experience, you know, who's this other person? Can we play with them?
The cubs seem fascinated with their new playmate. This female from their pride isn't a threat. She may well be their aunt. But Rose is still anxious. With the recent invasion of the nomad males in the valley, the cubs might be better off under the protection of the pride. But for now, Rose is still choosing to keep them hidden.
Pythons have lived in Africa for millions of years, long before humans arrived on the scene. The snake we see today has changed little from its prehistoric forebears. It's among the world's most primitive snakes. The small, thorn-like projections on their lower body, known as pelvic spurs, are thought to be vestiges of a time when these animals had hind legs. This is Squeeze. A pair of hind legs might actually come in handy right now, as she's weighed down by eggs inside her. They've grown to the point where it's hard to make much progress. Each egg weighs about as much as a billiard ball. That's around 50 billiard balls she's been hauling around for weeks. She's ready to lighten her load, but she can't just dump them anywhere. She's been searching for the right spot for weeks. This hollow at the base of an old silver oak tree could provide shelter from the elements, hide her eggs from predators, and keep them at a constant temperature. For an animal capable of such massive displays of power, she can be surprisingly maternal. She arranges her eggs in a pile and coils around them tightly. Of all the snakes in the world, the African rock python is one of only a few that actually cares for its young. All the others simply lay or give birth and leave. Without her protection, Squeeze's eggs would be easy pickings for monitor lizards and mongooses. She'll stand guard for the next 90 days, leaving the hollow only to bask in the sun and return to warm her eggs with her reheated body.
Bears are dangerous opportunists. They'll hunt, scavenge, and forage to survive. They'll also attack their own kind. In spring, female bears roam the karst, accompanied by young cubs. They're fiercely protective, especially when faced with a male that would readily kill the cubs to bring the female back into estrus. The male weighs his odds. The young cubs are oblivious to the danger, but their mother goes on the offensive instead of waiting for an attack. The male is not up for the fight. With the threat gone, the young bears devote themselves completely to play. They're learning how to get around in the karst, growing stronger and more confident as they explore. Their mother stays close, teaching them what being a bear is all about. By the time they're 2, they'll be on their own. But for now, they're safe under their mother's watchful eye.
In March, meltwater from 70,000 square miles drains into the Yellowstone River. By May, streams begin to swell. With the big melt, bison begin a migration to higher ground. They must cross swollen rivers to reach summer pasture. The calves stay close, even when their mothers lead them into dangerous waters. A calf takes the plunge, and instantly, it's in deep water. It takes all of its effort to keep up with its mother. As the rest of the herd piles in, chaos ensues. Lose your footing and the river takes you. Even the strongest are lost. The same current drags the calf down. Maternal instinct is fierce, but so is the river. The cow uses her body as a shield, breaking the current. In her lee, the calf makes headway, while others falter. They've escaped the water's deadly grip. The bison herd will continue the journey to higher pastures in the heart of Yellowstone.
During a good grooming session, friendships and alliances can be formed. And status reaffirmed. With first-time motherhood on the horizon, Sarah is curious about the newborns. And she's taken a liking to Anna's son. Sarah outranks everyone around her. It means she can do as she pleases, including kidnapping. Anna watches in shock as her son is carried away. Abducting another female's infant is not a typical Togmacque behavior. But pregnant Sarah appears to want to mother Anna's son. Anna doesn't quite know what to do. With her low ranking, she can't just take him back. And the kidnapper is not giving him up. The infant needs to suckle. In this heat, he could quickly become dehydrated. He tries to drink from Sarah, but she hasn't got any milk yet. Anna desperately needs to get him back.
Among all the bears migrating to Churchill, mothers and cubs travel the slowest. They will be among the last to arrive. The odds of both these newborns surviving their journey is only about 65%. So it falls to their mother to do all she can to tip the balance in their favor. Her cubs still lack their layer of insulating fat and are in danger of freezing to death in the frigid water. So she takes frequent breaks to let her cubs dry off in the summer sun. Traveling this way is not only much slower, it's also more dangerous. With hundreds of hungry males already stalking the shoreline, a neglected cub could make for an easy meal. When desperate, polar bears will eat cubs. This male has gone months without a meal. One of Polar Mom's newborns could be his chance. When Polar Mom stops to give her cubs a break, the male moves in. But Polar Mom catches his scent on the wind without a moment to lose. She runs just far enough, showing him there are no easy grab-and-go opportunities. And the male decides against a lengthy foot chase. But this is a warning to Polar Mom. As they continue toward Churchill, her cubs will be safer in deeper cover.
The cubs, who are now around 4 months old, are in great condition. And their mothers also look well fed and healthy.
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, they're doing so well compared to, a few weeks ago with the nomads coming through and chasing everyone around. It's all looking really good for them.
Up until now, the mothers have kept their cubs hidden from the rest of the pride. But today, they have visitors. The punks have come to keep an eye on their offspring and are lurking just 60 feet away.
So this is the first time we've seen the mothers and the cubs and Axel and Mohawk here together. I think this is kind of the beginning of the introduction for the cubs to the rest of the pride. It's quite late, in my opinion, from what I've seen before, but it certainly seems to be happening.
Ever since the nomads invaded, the mothers have been especially nervous about anyone coming near their cubs. Zuri, first-time mother of 2, is far from welcoming.
The mom is really snarling at the males, basically telling them to keep away. So they're keeping their distance quite well behaved.
The cubs sense her fear.
It's interesting behavior to watch. Mohawk and Axel just sitting there, looking over, but also at the same time kind of almost looking away as if they're not paying attention. The punks are the fathers of these cubs, so there's no real threat there. But the mothers are a little bit unsettled, moving around. They're not quite at ease at the moment.
Axel and Mohawk wisely keep watch from a distance.
Oh, there's another female over there.
It's a lioness from the MK Pride. Unlike the males, she's allowed to approach.
So really interesting, the third female came over and joined the mother and cubs, and there was no sign of aggression. They totally accepted her, which was fantastic to see.
It's not surprising. This new female is Rosa and Zuri's mother, the cub's grandmother.
It's really nice to see that sort of acceptance, and they're very, very calm with each other.
Seeing how relaxed they are, Nathan thinks this isn't the first time the cubs have met their grandmother.
Because the cubs actually know her well enough that they're not sort of going over and curious, playing and sort of seeing who she is.
Granny settles in with the newest members of the family. But the fathers will have to be patient a little longer.